Namaskar. Welcome to HW News. We have been noticing that the lockdown is getting unlocked in India with every passing day, every passing week. The number of COVID cases have been going down in the country. We hope it starts happening worldwide also. But that reminds us that with the lockdown now going out, or with COVID now being what it was, and with the number of COVID cases going down, it perhaps means that we should soon return to normalcy. But the last year has had a debilitating and terrible impact on a number of industries, on a number of segments. And we think that we need a discussion on each of these and put it to our viewers on what are the kind of long-term changes that are going to impact every industry that we intend to discuss in our episodes in these programs. If you actually look at the entire scenario worldwide, we think that the worst affected because of COVID worldwide, the pandemic, has been the aviation industry. The figures that come out are extremely disturbing. Worldwide, in 2020, as per IATA, the aviation industry has suffered losses to the tune of $390 billion. In US alone, the government has provided financial relief to the tune of $160 billion to the doddering aviation industry there. We haven't seen something like that happen in India, but the fact remains is that the industry has been suffering in India also. Worldwide, passenger traffic went down substantially as soon as the lockdowns were impacted. In April 2020, passenger traffic went down by 90%. Till August, it had gone down by 70%, 75%, not so much of an improvement. Our civil aviation minister just yesterday mentioned in the parliament that yet in India, the industry is working at about 75% to 80% capacity. The fact of the matter is that perhaps passengers are not traveling as much as they used to. Maybe they do not intend to travel as much as they used to, or maybe the finances of the industry are so shaky that starting all over again is a big challenge for all of them. As we said in India, financial support from the government has not yet come in the way we have seen it happen in countries like the US. To us, the industry, the aviation industry, has gone through an extremely difficult time, full of hardships, full of crises. To discuss how bad was the COVID pandemic for the aviation industry and how long will the impact last, what is going to be the post-COVID scenario for the aviation industry, I have the pleasure and privilege to have Mr. Mohan Rangnathan with me on the show today. Welcome, sir.
Pleasure.
Let me tell you, Mr. Rangnathan is one of the foremost aviation experts of India today. He has been a former airline instructor pilot, and he has been in the top committees of the Ministry of Civil Aviation in India for passenger and crew safety and airline safety. And who better than him to discuss what is going to be the status of the aviation industry worldwide and in India in the post-COVID scenario. Mr. Rangnathan, it is you who have to tell us of what do you think has been the impact of COVID on the industry in all these months, and what do you think it's going to be henceforward? Sir, you need to tell us.
See, the impact is going to be huge. All you need to look at is the number of wide-body airliners which are parked in the desert, various airports worldwide. And when you consider one of the most successful airlines, Singapore Airlines, operating at 10% of capacity, that is an indication that aviation is in a very bad state. Now you have restrictions in various countries. And even though they have this bubble arrangement, you will not find people. International traffic is going to be practically down to 5%, at least for the next 1 or 2 years, because anyone that I talk to in the IT industry or friends in aviation in US and Europe, they tell me that there is a reluctance to travel. See, people are saying a holiday travel is big and people are frustrated staying inside. And you will find travel travel port is saying that it is back to normal, and the minister also claiming that things are back to normal. Now, when you talk of, there is a difference between 75% capacity, the seat wise, and 75 and the capacity of occupancy. See, you can operate, like airlines can say we are operating 80% of our aircrafts. But if you're operating with 50% load factor and you're selling tickets way below cost, what is your yield? Like
Yes, sir.
if you remember last May, the Mr. Rona Datta of Indigo was saying that when they were not flying, they were losing 4 crores a day. And when they were flying, they were cruising, they're losing 3 crores a day. Now, even if you have a very deep cash reserve, that's going to burn off very, very fast. And what people don't seem to understand is that as far as international travel is concerned, things are not going to normalize for the next 2 years. That's definite. Now, unless international travel takes off to at least 75% of the old capacity, airline industry is not going to come out of the red. And how many can survive that kind of a loss is a big question.
So, sir, I have a couple of questions from what you have said at this moment. Just on a bit of a tangent, what will happen to all those planes which are parked by the hundreds in places like the Nevada desert in the US? Will they ever fly again?
Some may fly.
Okay.
For some, like most of the airlines have leased the aircrafts. So it is the leasing companies who will face the loss. Now, if they don't have, like, you see, people think that, oh, now the plenty of aircrafts are available and we can get them at a cheaper rate. But you have to remember that they have to service the loans that they have taken to buy those aircrafts for leasing.
Right,
so
sir.
it is cheaper to park them and mothball them than to have them flying and losing money.
Right,
So-
sir.
So that's what is going to happen.
So, talking about losing money, sir, the fact is that the industry worldwide is losing money. Like you spoke about Singapore Airlines, one of the most storied airlines being at 10% capacity. What looks like is every airline balance sheet is in the red at the moment. And if you go financially, they are not expected to survive. So does it mean that we are going to see a spate of nationalizations of airlines worldwide? Because every country finally needs airlines. It's not that you can't do without an airline.
You see, it depends on how the country looks at it. If you're running an airline for leisure travel, you will not be able to subsidize. How are you going to justify? You see, you can bulldoze your way like in a country like India. And, you can, for years now, Air India has been losing huge amount of money and the taxpayers have been pumping in. But the most important thing here, there is no accountability. You see, if somebody is losing money continuously in any other country, the top management would have been given the marching orders. Well,
Right, sir.
here it is the Peters principle. The more incompetent you are, the higher you rise.
Right, sir.
So
So that leads me to two more questions, sir. How is it going to impact the valuation of Air India, and will the government be able to privatize, sell off Air India in the coming financial year?
you see, anyone in his right mind will not bid for Air India. I would say that if there are rumors that Tatas are going to bid for that, and I'm really surprised because their principal airline is Vistara. They are losing money on AirAsia and they're losing money on Vistara. They cannot claim that they're doing well because these fire sales which have just been announced by all airlines in India. Vistara is also in the bandwagon. Now, the
Right.
only time you sell tickets, advance sales in peak season is when you're strapped for cash. Now, when you're strapped for cash to run the current airline, how are you going to find the capital to buy a hugely loss-making airline like Air India?
Yes, sir.
And then you have several riders for the purchase of airline. Okay, finally, after several years, they've come down that 100%. But then when you have various riders like employees to be kept for 2 years or various other factors, then it's really not worth it. And that is one of the reasons why Singapore Airlines is not willing to let go of their connections in Vistara. Now, if they permit, then their investment in India for Vistara is a loss. Right now, they'd rather concentrate on rebuilding Singapore Airlines to the old glory days.
Yes, sir.
See, traffic will pick up in about 3-4 years, international traffic, and they want to be in position to take advantage of that. So
Yes,
why
sir.
should they have a loss-making venture in India bidding for a bigger loss-making venture? So I don't think that Singapore Airlines will agree for Tata's to bid for Air India. If Tata's want to go on their own through AirAsia, then I would think that it is not the better sense, it is more an arm twisting by the government.
Sir, it is very clear that because of the pandemic impact, the valuation of Air India is going to suffer, and the chances that it gets privatization also become dimmer. What happens, sir, in your opinion, of the promise that the so-called takeover company of Jet Airways has promised to say that they are going to revive the airline in the coming financial year? Do you think that Jet Airways will be revived as they are saying, sir?
They will not be.
They would not be.
They would not be because, you see, as it is, you have 4 or 5 airlines in India. Indigo, even the last quarter, I think they've reported more than 1,000 crore loss.
Yes, sir.
But if you look at all the losses, if you take the cumulative losses during the last several years, recently there was a report that we are now down to 2014 level of passengers. Now, what people forget, in 2014, the number of aircrafts in our skies was half. So if you're looking at double the number of aircrafts with half the passengers, common sense, no one is going to make money. How long can you sustain? You see, a government can play around with your taxpayers' funds, but
Yes, sir.
no businessman is going to dig deep into his pockets.
Right, sir.
So I don't think that it is a rosy picture as far as aviation is concerned.
That leads me to another question, sir, which is the data says that about 4.3 million jobs have been lost worldwide in the industry. And in India, as per the civil aviation minister, 39,000 jobs were lost. Sir, are the jobs going to come back?
They're not going to come back. And it is not just 39,000, maybe only an airline. But you got to remember that airline industry is not just flying the plane. You have linked up industry like hotels, the transportation, the ground transportation, and
The airports.
airports, the ancillary. You see, airports make money as long as they get the revenue from aircraft flying. Now, when
Right.
you have the number of aircraft flying, which is minimal, airlines, what they do is they'll cut back on training costs and things like that. But airports, what they cut back, they will not cut back on the cover, which is your terminal building, because that's the showpiece. But what is the heart and soul of an airport is a runway. And that's where your life is in their hands. If it is not maintained according to the standards, it is your life which is in danger. So it is not just the COVID, like all the worldwide reports which come, that the long layoffs have impacted the psyche of the airline crew and also the maintenance. See, even if you have parked the aircraft, you have to maintain certain things, otherwise your electronics will get damaged, your hydraulics will get damaged. So do they have, when there is no income at all, how many are going to spend for proper maintenance in flying conditions and the crew in proper proficiency conditions? They are not doing that. You see, if you have a very strong regulator, you can trust them. Well, I can tell you with my experience in India that the weakest link in our safety is our regulator.
Oh,
He's more a facilitator than a regulator. So airlines know that, So on paper, and like our media is completely controlled. So whatever the ministry dishes out or the DGCA dishes out, they will publish it. Everything they will say is fine. But when it happens, our memory is very short. So this COVID impact on safety is not only going to be financial, it is also going to be psychological. Because when you have people who have lost their jobs or with pay cuts and things like that, definitely you have to have a psychological impact on their mindset. And that is the biggest danger.
so, sir, you talked about the psychological impact. Just to refresh our memories, when 9/11 took place in New York, it was for quarters and years together that passengers did not really come back to travel in the same numbers. There was a certain fear which was lingering. That also happened when we had the terrorist blast in London in 2005. Again, it impacted passenger travel. And we saw that in SARS, we saw that in the aviation flu, where people did not travel for some time. Sir, in your opinion, what are going to be the changes in passenger behavior because of this pandemic that we have witnessed? And will it happen that passengers are going to be averse to long haul travels? Will video conferencing become a substitute for business travel in the long run? Sir, how do you see the impact on passenger behavior in particular?
See, to start with, I'll go in the reverse order. The business travel, that is going to take a long time. Almost all the top corporates worldwide have reverted to work from home.
Right,
Video conferencing, like even if it revives, I know one of the top guys in IT industry, and what they are thinking of is work from home, maybe once a week, hire a conference hall in a hotel so that the staff can meet and interact.
Right,
so it is cheaper to hire a conference hall in a hotel, 5-star hotel, than to keep a big office going for a whole month. And as far as the business travel is concerned, people who are traveling thrice a week for business meetings are traveling maybe once a month now, and is now going to revive. And as far as long haul is concerned, tell me how many are very disciplined to keep the mask, the passenger in the middle seat with the full PPE kit and the face shield. Can you imagine sitting in an aircraft? Now, everyone prefers the point-to-point long-haul flights. Now, would you like to travel with your mask and face shield for 16 hours? So after some time, you're going to be claustrophobic. You're bound to remove it. So even though they may claim that the aircraft interior, the air is dry and germs can't survive, but it's just conjecture. There's nothing proven there. So it's going to take a long time for international travel. After the vaccine, people will still see for at least 6 months to a year what the situation is. Unless it's completely eradicated. It's not like SARS or terrorist activity. Here it is your own life, not because of a terrorist or this virus has put the fear into everyone. People have stopped moving out anyway. So, you see, what is going to happen is you have to get the fear of the COVID out of your mind for travel to begin. Business travel is not going to begin for at least a year. And international travel is also going to take, I would say, 2 years. So what will happen is, if your international travel does not begin, the tourism travel, the Indian industry is now going to pick up for the simple reason, for all their aircrafts, they're going to be paying the lease charges in dollars. You can't earn in rupees selling cheap tickets to service an aircraft loan for lease charges. So they're going to get deeper and deeper into red. Even though everyone is saying that we are going to survive, I would say that maybe 2 or 3 airlines will survive during the year, because with the DGCA capping their fares even during peak season, the airlines can't make good the losses.
Right,
See,
sir.
actually, our biggest problem in Indian aviation is we don't have a clear-cut civil aviation policy. It's run by babus who think that they know everything, but they know nothing, which includes the minister. So what happens is, because of the control that they have, airlines do not have the courage to question or you know contest what the minister or the DGCA says. They
Right,
all
sir.
know that. And one of the best uh, examples is the recent tweet about that Rihanna. You saw how the whole country, the celebrities and the cricketers. So the airlines and the media, they are falling over their heels just to please the minister and the government. So
So, sir, here I have $1 million question to you. How many years before the industry comes back to pre-COVID levels?
5 years.
5 years. Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you were going to tell me 2 years.
2 years, maybe to some extent, if they're financially sound. But how many, I've seen uh, airlines falling over like nine pins. You saw what happened to Kingfisher,
Yes, sir.
and you saw what happened to Jet Airways. Like, I would blame all these financial companies. When there is an IPO, I still remember in 2005 when the IPO for Jet Airways was there. You had two big companies, Kotak and Ernst Young, saying that it is really good. The launch price of 1200 is excellent, and lots of people bought. And I can tell you, there's only one person that I know who made money on that. He was a captain with Jet Airways. They were all given their shares. When it went to 1400, he sold it, and everyone thought that he was a fool. I think he's the only one who made money on a Jet Airways share. You know, and if you look at the Indigo
Sir,
shares,
sir, another person I must interrupt you here who made money on Jet Airways shares and capital was Mr. Naresh Goyal for sure.
yeah, that's all promoters make in every airline. A promoter never. You see, when you order more than 100 aircrafts, airlines, aircraft manufacturers give you a huge discount,
Right, sir.
and then and your slots for manufacture are booked. So you sign the deal, and the next day you sign with the leasing companies for sale and lease back. And the leasing company will pay a higher price because he is taking over your manufacturer's slot. The promoters always make money. It is not the shareholders. They are the suckers in this share market. Like if you take, they'll say that Indigo shares are remaining high. But you look at the share thing, I think 85% or 90% is owned by the promoters.
Right, sir. True, sir.
So what difference does it make whether the market is going up or down?
Yes, sir. So, sir, I have a last question to you, which is my comfort depends on the competence of the crew that flies me. You have been an ace pilot instructor. With all these months of lockdown that took place, I'm sure somewhere pilot skills would have gone maybe obsolete or outdated, or maybe certainly untrained. What's going to happen to that, sir? Am I going to get back extremely competent pilots to fly me, or would I, as a passenger, always be in doubt?
The competence will definitely take a hit because if you're highly experienced, being off proficiency for a couple of months or 3 months, it makes no difference. It'll come back. But if you're an inexperienced pilot, it's going to take a long time. And if you look at the experience levels in the airlines in India, because of the rush to introduce more and more aircrafts, they don't have competent pilots. They were getting expats. You don't know what is the background of the expats. And over here, because we have a very weak regulator, it is all box ticking. I know cases where people have not even started the simulator, but the forms have been filled as though they have done the checks, and it was brought to the attention of the DGCA Even Air India, other regulators, top examiners, they're all hushed up. So when you're away from proficiency checks for months, and if you do not do it diligently, I mean, if a guy is unfit in a proficiency check, he is unfit. But they will not do it because they need the pilot. And so proficiency is going to drop. Aircraft maintenance is going to drop. If you're not paying the salaries, where is going? There's no commitment to maintain the aircraft to 100% level. People are just going to go there, box ticking. They're all experts at that.
Right,
So
sir.
that is the biggest worry, not just here, even worldwide. People are worried these long layoffs is going to affect the safety and proficiency.
Mr. Rangnathan, thank you so much for joining us. One thing is clear from our discussion today that the industry's bad weather is not over. We are going to have more and more air pockets that are going to be faced by the airlines. How many survive is anybody's guess. But with Mr. Rangnathan saying that it could be 5 years before we touch pre COVID levels, that means it's not going to be many airlines who will have the balance sheet depth to be able to survive it. Let's see how does it play out in India, where as a country, as a government, the government has done little to give direct financial aid to the airlines to ensure their survival. So the turbulence continues, and let's see how many survive. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off in our episode, starting off a series on what is going to be the impact of the COVID pandemic and lockdown on industry after industry. We had the most interesting session with Mr. Rangnathan today. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Namaskar.
Hello everyone. HW News English is 2 years old now. When we started this venture, we promised ourselves one thing, that news should remain free, because right to know is the right of every Indian. But to keep news free for everyone, we need support from some of you. And thus we have rolled out membership on our YouTube channel HW News English. But mind you, the membership is completely voluntary. The programs that we were doing earlier, that we are doing now, will continue to remain free. First level is a basic level. Here, you can be our supporter by paying rupees 199 per month. This membership gives you certain perks and benefits. The perks include unique badges in front of your name, a live show from Mr. Sujit Nair and from Mr. Akhilesh Bhargava per month for our members. You can also vote in some exclusive members-only polls. Now the second level is Super Supporter. Here you can be our Super Supporter by paying rupees 3,999 per month. This membership will include every perk that comes with basic level. Additionally, our super supporters can be a part of a WhatsApp group where we can have discussions and suggestions on various topics. The second perk includes a gift pack with our merchandise. And the third perk is a Google Meet with Mr. Sujit Nair, where you can join the meet and ask your questions to Mr. Nair face to face. Lastly, if you like, we would give a shout out to our super supporters in our programs. So, hope to see you soon with our badges.